Hello, yeah, the objective of this video is to go through a few things that will explain the condition of patella maltracking if you've ever suffered from that injury. The video is designed as an accompaniment to a video I posted called Correcting Patella Maltracking. That video basically shows an exercise that I recommend. But that video on its own doesn't really kind of explain what to do properly. So first up, just explaining if you suffer from this injury, kind of why it's happening, what's going on. Probably the best place to start is if you can imagine you're drawing like a cartoon picture of a bone, like in something like Tom and Jerry, like the dog in Tom and Jerry, and it was eating a bone. You'd have like the shaft of the bone, and then you'd have those ball bits at the end. Yeah, well, that's those ball bits at the end. That's effectively what the thigh bone's like at the knee. Okay, so if you imagine these two fingers here are that sort of bulb bit at the end of the thigh bone, and this bouncy ball here is the kneecap. If in a healthy knee, the kneecap would run smoothly along the end of the thigh bone, the groove in the end of the femur. Okay, so it's tracking properly along the groove. But most people, when there's a maltracking problem, the muscles on the outside of the thigh are tighter and they're overactive, and the muscles on the inside of the thigh, they're weak and underactive. So the kneecap's being pulled onto the outside of the groove, this outer condyle it's called, okay, and that's what causes the rubbing and the pain and the stiffness, and that's why if you've got this problem you just really don't want to bend your knees because it hurts to do it. So to correct that, what you want to do is, instead of having it out here on the outside, on the lateral condyle, you want to bring it back to centre. So you've got to kind of switch off or sort of lessen the overactiveness of these tight muscles on the outside. Okay, so you've got to lengthen them out and deactivate them, and then you've got to get these muscles on the inside that are weak, and you've got to start activating them and getting them to pull the kneecap so it starts to run smoothly across the groove. Okay, so in order to do that, one thing that's going to help before you even start trying to do that exercise that's in my Correcting Patella Maltracking video, you'd most likely, well, almost certainly, you're going to have lots of knots and tightness in the muscles in the outside of the thighs. Muscles like the vastus lateralis, which is the big outer quad muscle. So you're going to need to break down those knots. If you kind of went to a physical therapist, a massage therapist, what have you, that would work. Trouble is, if it's really bad, you'd be having to see them a hell of a lot, and it might cost a lot of money. So one of the things I'll recommend that you try out is a basic form of self-massage, or they call it self-myofascial release, using tools like they're called foam rollers. So here's one. It's just a roll of foam. There's probably 1,000,001 videos on YouTube already explaining what these things are and how to use them. Basically, you put them on the floor and you roll your body along them, and it breaks down the knots in the muscle. So yeah, they're really good. If your patella maltracking problem is really bad, you'll probably find that just every muscle in the thigh is bad. So yeah, give them all a good roll out, but particularly concentrate on the outer thigh, because that's likely to be tightest, and that's probably what's pulling the kneecap onto this lateral condyle of the femur, so pulling it out of groove. So that's kind of the massage work that you would do on it. Then going to the exercise in the Correcting patella maltracking video, how does that work? Well, one person commented on that video and they said, my patella maltracking is really bad. If I tried that exercise, it'd absolutely kill me. Well, I mean, but that's a good point. And I wrote in a reply to this that, in fact, the reason for that is that video shows you where you want to end up eventually. So you saw in that video that the toes ended up quite a fair distance away from the wall, such that the knees had to drift and travel quite a lot to the wall. Now, if you're just starting out in the exercise, you wouldn't want to try and do such a long range of motion as that. You'd want to get right up close to the wall to begin with. That is, if you even use the wall at all. What you could do is just, and this is how I started, because I used to have really bad patella maltracking myself. I mean, I couldn't even stand up off chairs, that sort of thing. The pain in my knees was so bad. So what I did when I first started was, I did that exercise. I did the two-legged version, which is what's shown at the start of the video, and keeping the hips extended, locked out as they are. You just literally just unlock the knees, just a few degrees, just shift some of the weight onto those knees and then come back. Shift some of the weight onto the knees and come back. You only need to do the slightest of movements. Because what you'll find is if your patella maltracking problem is really bad, even just bending the knees a few degrees will be painful. So, okay, so you're probably thinking, okay, well, great, all right, he's giving me this exercise and I need to start it a little bit and it's painful. Well, that in a way is kind of how the exercise works. Is what's going on is when you unlock those knees with hips straight, you're intentionally placing load onto the thigh muscles, the quadriceps muscles. Now, around your life, in your daily tasks, you'll have intentionally avoided putting any load on those muscles whatsoever, just because it hurts. So every time you get off chairs, you'll be pushing yourself up with your arms. When you climb upstairs, you'll be going up with straight legs, that sort of thing. So this is saying, no, let's start deliberately putting some load through those quads, but doing it in a safe environment, to starting off a very short range of motion to begin with. So is what will happen is, the reason why that will hurt is because, as explained, those tight muscles on the outside, they're going to be pulling the kneecap out laterally, and those weak muscles on the inside, they're just not going to be doing their job. But if you just hold that knees slightly unlocked position for a little bit longer, go to sort of 10, 15, 20 seconds, hopefully what you'll find is the pain will actually subside. It will stop hurting. And what's going on there is you're getting, it's almost like that pain is almost sending a bit of feedback to the body, and it's telling it, hey, look, if I keep these muscles on the outside of the quads switched on really hard like they are, it's just going to continue to pull this kneecap out in the wrong place. And the muscles on the inside of the thigh, they're going to get feedback, look, if we want to stop this pain, we're going to need to activate and pull the kneecap back in line to get it in the middle. So once you've held that position for a good few seconds, hopefully you'll find the body starts to teach itself how to align the forces between the muscles on the lateral side, the muscles on the medial side, so that we've got balance, so that we're pulling the kneecap more centrally. And that will just happen. You just kind of have to have faith in that. And then is what you can do from that point onwards is, each time you do it, just try and progress the range of motion slightly further, and then to eventually you're doing it like demonstrated in the Correcting Patella Maltracking video, where you're, from session to session, you're bringing the wooden block and your toes further and further away from the wall, thus increasing the range of motion that you travel. And you find that you can travel a longer range of motion before you get that pain. And as soon as you get that horrible pain, obviously you stop. You don't want to push the range of motion further, but just hold it there when the pain starts to come on, just hold it there and see if that body does that learning thing. See if it's the muscles on the inside of the quad start to take over. They start to do a little bit more work. They start to do their job. They start to pull that patella back into the midline, back in the centre through that groove where it should be. Okay, so that's the idea, until eventually you practice the exercise so much that it actually becomes the natural way for the muscles to work, and the muscles just naturally work in balance again. Okay, but don't forget, you can't just do that exercise. You need to do the massage work. The foam rolling is what I'd recommend for that. So make sure you do that work as well. Also, check out a lot of the other videos on this channel, because they will help sort out some of the root causes. Essentially, most sort of problems, even the problems in the knee, tend to get caused by issues in the hips. And, well, I mean, issues in the hips start just in general modern day life because people sit in chairs. I won't get started on that because that's been discussed a hell of a lot. There's probably articles about it all over the place. Yeah, it'd take ages. Anyway, I hope this helps. I hope this explains that correct impact patella maltracking video a bit more, because it might have been a bit unclear. Alright, cheers.